Hi everyone, it's Lindy on from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we would make a really fun spooky Halloween project. We're going to be using several brand new products from the Holtz Halloween 2023 collection. Let's start off by taking a look at the die set we're going to be using. And this is from the Sizzix Thinlits collection and it's called Big Frights. You can see you get a moon, some bats, a little spider, little crossbones, and a skull. But the main feature are these beautiful big sentiments. One says boo and one says eek, and they both have that really nice layer that goes behind them. So it really makes the sentiment stand out. So let's go ahead and create our background. We're going to be using the boo sentiment today. I've got some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock and some mica stains. I'm going to be using Empty Tomb, Unraveled, and Fallen Acorn. So what you do want to do before you use these is make sure you shake these really well. They have mica on the bottom, so you want to make sure you shake them. There's a little ball in there, so you'll move that ink around. Shake them really well so you get a nice blend, and then we can go ahead and start spraying on the first two colors. So I'm going to start with the Fallen Acorn and Unraveled, and then I've got my Distress Sprayer. It just has water in it, and I'm going to spritz this entire panel. I like to kind of set that base color first, just get those inks to start moving around a little bit. Now you certainly don't have to add water to this if you don't want to, but I want to blend this out. We're going to create like a cracked background. So I'm really just looking for some interest and texture in this background. Now I've grabbed that Fallen Acorn again, and I'm just going to spritz a little bit more of that darker color on. Again, adding some water to this. Now at this point, I'm going to just blot up some of the ink along those edges. And I'm just using a paper towel to do that. And then for the final color, I'm going to use the Empty Tomb. And this is a really nice, kind of a dark gray, pewtery type of color. So I'm going to spritz that with a little bit of the Empty Tomb, and then I'm going to heat set this. So I did blot up that extra ink along the edges. Now I've got my heat tool, and I'm just going to slowly heat this. And I'm going back to the Fallen Acorn, and I'm going to spatter this entire panel. So I've just taken the little nozzle right out of the container, and I'm just going to let that drip onto my cardstock. And again, that's going to create a lot of interest for our background. So you can see that beautiful mica shimmer that we get with these mica stains. I did want to quickly mention that you do want to make sure you wipe off the top of that nozzle when you're done. You can use a damp paper towel or a baby wipe. You just want to make sure you clean off that nozzle because you don't want it to clog next time you go to use it. Now I've got the Holtz Sizzix 3D Texture Embossing folder, and this one is called Cracked. So I'm going to actually ink up the embossing folder, the top part of the embossing folder, with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Now this is a permanent black ink, so don't worry, I'm going to show you how to clean this off really easily once you're done pressing that ink into your cardstock. So what I'm going to do is ink that up really well, close that embossing folder, and then I'm running it through the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine a couple of times. Now you want to use the directions for your specific machine. To do this, I'm using just a couple of pieces of thin cardboard to press that out. Now you can see how beautiful that is, and it actually puts that black ink right down into those grooves. So here's where I'll just quickly show you that I've got my Nuvo stamp cleaner, and I'm going to spritz that really well and grab a microfiber towel and just wipe that off. And it will easily come off. You do want to do that right away. If it does dry on there, it's not going to harm anything, but I do like to keep my supplies fairly clean. So once that's cleaned off, what I want to do is just make this panel a little bit more secure. So I'm adding a piece of black cardstock to the back of this because I did get a little bit of cracking on the paper when I ran that through the die cutting machine. And so by adding that piece of black cardstock, I can really make sure this is nice and secure. So I've trimmed that down to my A2 size panel, and I'm going to ink up the edges of this using my Distress Oxide ink in the black soot. And I also want to ink up those edges a little bit just to take away any of that white edge. Now here's the Boo die, and again you've got that layer to it, which I really love. So let's grab the layer and some cardstock from the Tim Holtz Idea-ology paper stash, and this one is called Abandon. Now this has been out, I think, since last year or maybe even the year before, but it's one of my favorite go-to paper packs. You can see it's well loved. I'm going to grab that one there with the pretty pinky purpley colors in it, and I'm going to die cut that background. But as I was looking at it, I changed my mind. I decided I was going to have the word boo out of this cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and tape that down with a little bit of post-it tape. And then for the background, I decided to have a sparkle. So I'm going to go to the Tim Holtz Halloween Deco paper. And this is a sticky back paper. It's fairly thin, so it will die cut easily, but it is fairly thin, so I am going to back that with some cardstock. But first, I was just trying to decide which color I wanted, either the black or the purpley color. I did decide to go with that purple color because I thought it brought out the color in the paper that I chose. So let's go ahead and just trim this down. And then I'm going to grab one more piece of black heavyweight cardstock because, as I mentioned, that sparkly paper is a little bit thin, and I'm going to be gluing those two together. So let's run these through the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And now we can add this sticker paper to this black cardstock. Now, because this is such a giant sticker at this point, I like to just peel back just a little bit of that paper, that backing, and just pull it off a little at a time. This gives me time to line everything up and then just kind of press that into place. So now you can kind of see how this is going to start to come together. Let's go ahead and grab two of the Distress Glaze. And these are, again, from the Tim Holtz collection, and we're using Seedless Preserves and Mermaid Lagoon, and I just think these colors together are so beautiful, and they're going to go perfectly with this background paper. So I've got some Versamark watermark ink, and this is a embossable ink, and I'm going to place it down onto the letter Boo with my foam applicator tool, and I'm just going to put that ink down towards the bottom section of this sentiment. And then I'm going to sprinkle on that Mermaid Lagoon Distress Glaze. I'll tap off any excess, and we can go ahead and heat set this with our heat tool. Want to make sure the tool is nice and hot before you go to your cardstock, and you can see how that's really darkening up the color of our paper, and it's going to give us this beautiful shiny glaze over top. You can see that there. So let's go ahead and add the Seedless Preserves. Same thing, I'm going to just tap on that embossing ink, and I am going to overlap the colors a little bit so we'll get a third color in the middle. Once I have that embossing ink on, I'm going to sprinkle on the Seedless Preserves, tap off any excess, and of course we can put that right back in the container. And then let's go ahead and heat set this again. And now here's where you'll see where those two colors overlap. You get that really pretty kind of purpley blue color. So let me give you a closer look at this. And now we'll go ahead and attach this to some pieces of black cardstock. So I did decide to die cut the word Boo 3 more times out of some black heavyweight cardstock. and I'm going to glue these together. This will give us a nice thick embellishment because that boo did curl a little bit as I was heat setting it, and I want this to lay nice and flat, and also to give it a little dimension. So let's go ahead and glue that to our sparkly cardstock, and you can see what that looks like. So now I've got a paper doll. I'm going to grab this little girl, and these are from the Halloween paper doll collection, and there are tons of adorable little paper dolls in here, so feel free to pick any of them you like. I did want one that was sitting down because I'm going to place her in one of the O's on the sentiment. Now I've got some hickory smoke. These are the Distress Crayons, and these are also from Tim Holtz. I've got a paper towel, and I'm going to spritz that with a little bit of water. So I wanted to quickly show you that you can color your paper dolls, and using the Distress Crayons is a really easy way to do this. So I'm placing down some of the color. I'm just dampening the tip of my finger a little bit so that I can spread that ink around. So this is really easy to do. Just add a little bit of the crayon and then push that ink around. You could also use a baby wipe here as well. Now you could do some more coloring. We are going to come in with a second color. You could add some color to her cheeks or her skin tones. I wanted her to be pretty white and kind of scary looking, so I'm going to leave her face and skin just the way it is. At this point, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of that blue color. So I've got the Uncharted Mariner Distress Crayon, and I'm going to add that kind of towards the sides of her dress and just kind of pull that in. Just thought that would just make her pop out a little bit better. Now these are, again, really easy to use. Just blending them with your finger. You do have plenty of time to move that ink around, and then once it's dry, it will dry permanently. And now I've got the Halloween sticker book, and there's tons of cute little stickers in here. We're going to grab one of those little Halloween hats, but there's also sentiments, there's bats and skulls and masks, just a ton of really fun images. I'm going to go ahead and stick this down to some black cardstock, again to give it a little bit more substance. Now, if you really love these cards with the paper dolls, you could check out a video I recently did using many of the Tim Holtz Halloween 2023 collection, and it's called the Tim Holtz Halloween Graveyard Colorize. So you could check that out. I'll leave a link below and also on the blog. I've added some foam tape, and we're going to pop this up. I just want to place that little girl on here just so I can be sure that I have enough room for her little feet to hang down from the sentiment, and I'll center that on the card. So let's go ahead and glue her in place. And I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to do most of my gluing today. Now her feet are going to hang down a little bit, but we're going to fix that in a minute just to make sure everything's nice and level. But first, let's grab a few more things from this collection. I'm going to grab 3 of those little bats. And I'm going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to add some black cardstock to those. And I'll go ahead and cut those out. But I did want to give them a little bit more dimension. And then I'm also going to grab from that sticker book that little tiny mask, and I'm going to put that right over her eyes. I just thought that was a really cute finishing touch. And these stickers are all designed to fit the paper dolls and many of your other projects as well. Now I've got the baseboards from the Halloween 2023 collection. You can see you get a few of those acetate bats. You get lots of these really great little sentiment chips. I love these. I use these all the time. I grabbed a couple there. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use. And you can see you get all these doors and windows and frames. Lots of really fun little items in this collection. if you're going to do some of your larger projects, some of your shadow boxes, these are great little items to use in those as well. You've got a couple little shatter acetate sheets, and then you've got a little spider web on some acetate. So let's grab the sentiment that says dreadfully wicked. I'm going to use my Tim Holtz titanium shears to cut just a little bit off that side. And then to ink up the edges, I'm using my black Soot Distress Oxide ink. You can either use an applicator tool or just rub that ink pad right around the edges. And that's going to take away that look of that cardboard and give it a nice black edge. Now I can go ahead and tuck that right in under her feet, and we'll just glue this down, and then we can glue her feet right to this. And again, that will keep everything nice and level. I'm just going to add a little dot of glue there. I've got the bats, and I'm going to use my fingers just to curl up the wings a little bit for a little bit more dimension. We can go ahead and glue those in place. Just going to kind of randomly place these around the sentiment. Now once that's all set, let's go back to that sticker book and grab one of the sentiments. And there are tons in here that you can use. There's tons of little spooky sentiments. I did grab the one that said Wonders of a Witch. And I'm going to ink that up a little bit around the edges. And since it is a sticker, I'm going to just stick that right down, and it'll hold there really well. I've got from the Tim Holtz Idea-ology collection, I've got these little metal adornments, and I'm going to use that little spider. But it is designed to be a charm. So I'm going to cut away that little circle, that little charm portion. I'm just using my steel die cutters to cut that away. And then I'll just fuss around a little bit just to make sure that it's not too sharp. Next, I'm going back to that Uncharted Mariner, and I did want to show you that set also contains the Villainous Potion. These are also new in 2023. So I'm going to grab, I was going to grab the blue one, but in the end I decided to grab the Villainous Potion and add a little purple. So I'm just rubbing that crayon right down into the little crevices on the spider, and then with my finger I'm just going to kind of take off any excess. If you get too much, again, you can dampen your finger and just wipe off any excess. And you can see that gives it kind of a really pretty purpley tint. I've got my multi-matte medium glue, and this is perfect for any of your mixed media embellishments. It's great for metal on paper, so I'm just going to add a little bit of that. It's super strong, and I wanted that little spider to look like it was in her lap. That she was kind of like it was her little pet spider. So I put that in her lap and let that dry. Now I did decide to turn this into a little easel, so it's going to be a little decorative item for your table or your mantle. And I use this easel die. This is from a long time ago from the Tim Holtz collection, and it's the small easel, and that is one of the big dies. So it's a steel rule die, so it'll cut through several layers of paper at the same time. I'll try to list down below for you some other easels that you could possibly use if you cannot find this one. And then I grabbed a couple of pieces of black cardstock, a little bit bigger than my project, and I glued two of them together for a little bit of substance because I do want this to sit up on a table nicely. And that leaves about a 1/2 inch border all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And then I've got that easel. It's going to go right on the back. You can see it's a little bit long for this project, so I'll just grab my scissors and cut away any excess. So I had to cut off maybe about a 1/2 inch. And now it'll fit on there just perfectly. You want to make sure when the easel opens and closes that it doesn't go off the side of your project. So you do want to make sure you check that before you glue it down. I like to open up the easel just so I'm sure that I'm putting glue exactly where I want it to be. So I'll just make sure that's in place nicely. Just making sure that when it opens up, it's not going off the edge of that card panel. Let's add a few sequins. I'm going to the Buttons Galore and More sequin mix. I'm going to grab those purpley colors. This one is called Scary Fun. And do keep in mind that all the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. So let's lay these out. I'm just using my little pickup tool to lay these out. And I felt like that would just tie everything together. So now I'll just use that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and we can glue these down. So let's take a closer look at the finished project and look at that background with that mica stain. I just love that. And then these distressed glazes on our sentiment. And she is just kind of spooky and scary. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.